Hello and welcome to this video lecture on the global governance of football and athletics, which is part of Unit 1 of our program on sports law.
I'm Aju John. In this video lecture, we will take up 3 examples which will illustrate the global governance of football. The first 2 examples will exhibit the workings of FIFA's disciplinary code. The third example will exhibit the working of FIFA's ethics code. Now to take up FIFA's disciplinary code, we have read a lot about this document in the reading material to this unit. To summarize, FIFA's disciplinary code describes the role of FIFA's disciplinary committee, lists the issues that it has jurisdiction over, and also lists the kind of sanctions that it may impose. Now in the first example, we will take up how FIFA's disciplinary code applies in the case of individuals. The incident in question happened before the eyes of the entire world. That is, during the finals of the 2006 FIFA World Cup at Berlin. In the dying minutes of a tense final between the national teams of Italy and France, Zinedine Zidane, who is considered one of the greatest players to have ever played the sport, was sent off by the referee for having head-butted Italian defender Marco Materazzi. Now, please take a moment or a few to read about the specific jurisdiction of FIFA's disciplinary committee on your screens. Now, after Italy won the finals, FIFA's disciplinary committee summoned both Mr. Zidane and Mr. Materazzi, who was thought to have provoked Mr. Zidane. Mr. Zidane was fined 7,500 Swiss francs and banned for 3 matches. Mr. Materazzi was fined 5,000 Swiss francs and banned for 2 matches. In Mr. Zidane's case, since he had previously announced his retirement from football, he was allowed to do 3 days of community service as a part of FIFA's humanitarian activities. Now, let's go to the second example and let's take up how FIFA's disciplinary code will apply in the case of legal persons. These are non-natural persons such as teams, clubs, and national football federations. The example in question is an incident of spectator misbehavior. In a friendly encounter, a match that happened in August 2012 between the national teams of Israel and Hungary at Budapest, FIFA received information that certain sections of the crowd had chanted anti-Semitic chants and made offensive symbols. Now please take a moment to read on your screens a few examples of the kind of sanctions that FIFA's disciplinary committee can impose on these non-natural persons. After the incident in question, FIFA's disciplinary committee decided that Hungary's next match, to be played against Romania in March 2013, would be played without spectators. This is an illustration of how FIFA's disciplinary code can apply to non-natural persons such as national football federations, in this case the Hungarian Football Federation. Now let's move on to FIFA's ethics code. As we have seen in the reading material, FIFA's ethics code applies to things that happen off the field of play, specifically conflicts of interest, corruption, and bribery. Now this incident happened just prior to Sepp Blatter's election for his 4th consecutive term as the president of FIFA. Now before the election, Sepp Blatter's chief rival for the position of president of FIFA was Mr. Mohammed bin Hammer. Before the elections, he was accused of bribing members of the Caribbean Football Union. FIFA's ethics committee opened proceedings against Mr. bin Hammer. Now let's take a moment to reflect on FIFA's ethics committee. The Ethics Committee consists of an investigative chamber and an adjudicatory chamber. If the investigative chamber finds a prima facie case, it can send a report to the adjudicatory chamber. The adjudicatory chamber can then make a decision on the basis of the report and then impose sanctions on the violators. This will be the decision of the Ethics Committee. If the decision of the Ethics Committee can be appealed against, then the decision of the Ethics Committee can be appealed to the Appeals Chamber of FIFA. At this moment, it's also important to recognize that FIFA statutes also provide the option of appealing to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Now, this is a body that operates outside of FIFA and about which we will learn much more in one of the forthcoming units. Now, once FIFA's Ethics Committee opened investigation against Mr. Bin Hammam stepped down from the elections and Mr. Sepp Blatter was elected unopposed. Later, the Ethics Committee gave a decision to ban Mr. Bin Hammam from all forms of football for life. Football-related activity for life. Mr. Bin Hammam appealed the decision up to the CAS, and the CAS eventually found that there was not enough evidence to support this ban. This is an illustration of FIFA's ethics code at work. This brings us to the end of our discussion on the global governance of football. Now, one of the common things that we notice when sporting disciplines start out and grow is that participants in that sporting discipline feel the need to achieve scale. Now, this is because if you involve other participants, you can bring in more fans and more revenues. This means that athletes might even be able to achieve a living, make a living from playing that sport. Now, there are two important constituents to be able to play a sport at scale. One important constituent is that the sport that is being played in two geographically disparate locations, might even be two different parts of India, has to be the same sport. That is, it has to be played under the same set of rules. Another condition is that this sport has to be governed uniformly along the same set of principles and perhaps by the same entity. So while achieving scale, local level participants in a sport will cooperate with each other and agree on a same set of rules under which the sport is being played. They might even cooperate with each other to form a local level governing body. To play the sport at a national scale, local level governing bodies can cooperate amongst each other, form a national level governing body, and even cooperate with it. To play the sport at an international scale, national level governing bodies have to cooperate amongst each other, perhaps form an international level governing body, and then cooperate with it. The advantage of having a wide membership or credible enough governing bodies at the national or at the international level is that the sport can then attract even wider cooperation from other participants. Coming to the IAAF, it was a body that was established in 1912 in Stockholm, which is 17 national federations. Today it has 212 national federations as its members. Now, what does a national federation gain from being a member of the IAAF? Most importantly, it gains credibility with local participants in that sport. Local participants in that sport, such as athletes, clubs, teams, coaches, etc., will feel that they are legitimate participants in the discipline of athletics. In return for this legitimacy, national athletics federations agree to abide by the IAAF Constitution, which is the primary document of the IAAF. As we shall see soon, the IAAF Constitution is the document around which the global governance of athletics has been made uniform. We can observe a network of agreements at play here, which make this possible. On the one hand, there are agreements between the IAAF and the national level athletics federations. Secondly, there are agreements between the national level athletics federations and the local level athletics governing bodies. And then the local level governing bodies have their own agreements with players, teams, coaches, clubs, etc. Therefore, this network of agreements operate together to confer what looks like a waterfall of recognition upon the IAAF constitution. This is how athletics has been able to achieve a common governance structure. Now, another document that is almost as important as the IAAF constitution is the IAAF competition rules. Now, this document, the IAAF competition rules, has been the point of reference for the standardization of athletics across the world. This relates to the point about having a uniform set of rules required for the scaling up of a particular sporting discipline. The IAAF competition rules deal with the international rules of competition, anti-doping, settlement of disputes, the technical rules of athletics, etc. Now, similar to the waterfall of recognition conferred upon the IAAF constitution by the network of agreements between the international governing body, which is the IAAF, the national level governing bodies, and local level governing bodies, and the participants in that sport, a similar waterfall of recognition has been conferred on the IAAF competition rules. This is how the sporting discipline of athletics has achieved a common set of rules based on which the sport is practiced across the world. Now, with that, we come to the end of our discussion on how the sporting discipline of athletics was able to achieve a common governance structure and a uniform set of rules based on which it is practiced around the world today.
Thank you for watching. In the next unit, we will learn about the regulation of sports governing bodies by governments.